Boys don't become men simply by getting older. They must be shown the way. They must be initiated into manhood by other men. They need brothers. The world may be collapsing, but God is raising up good men to raise good men. It's one of the great God movements of our time, and you can be part of it. On the Dragon Slayers podcast, we interview ordinary men with extraordinary tales of conquering their fears and becoming fearless, loving men of God. Through their stories, you will hear rich wisdom, practical advice, and the value of brotherhood so you can stand out as a man among men. Warning, we will not mince words. We believe soft men and soft advice slay no dragons. So prepare yourself like a man. This is the Dragon Slayers podcast.
All right, Ben Serpell.
Here we are.
You're up, man.
In the studio.
Here we are.
Yeah.
My son in love.
I was reading that in the book the other day. I'm like, it's still alive. The son in love is still alive. Father in love.
That's it. There we go.
Cheers.
Keep it rolling. Keep it fresh.
We'll pass it on.
Keep it hot.
Yeah.
There we go. Keep it in front of us. Steaming hot.
Steaming hot. You can listen to all the episodes now to figure out what that is referencing to. We shouldn't start there.
So good. Well, it's a great privilege and honor to, have you in my family, but as well to run together for life.
Yep. That's it.
I expect that I'll be the one that leaves the relationship first because I'll die.
Yeah. I was wondering where you're going. I was like, wait, I knew right away.
But I'll be cheering you on.
Thank you.
Okay.
In a great cloud.
That great cloud.
Yeah.
Totally. Hey, you have like everybody, you have a story about being raised by the folks that brought you into this world and surrounded you with siblings. You're kind of the middle child, only male.
Yep.
And tell us a little bit about growing up in the land of Down Under.
Down Under.
And maybe some of the dynamics and how that shaped the way you saw the world.
Yeah. Yeah. So you may hear my accent as you go through some of these episodes. If you do, please message me or say something that you still hear my accent.
Yeah.
Because it's in there somewhere. But I am from Australia. I was born and raised there and moved to America at 18 years old, which we'll probably get into that in a minute. But I have two sisters, both 2.5 years on either side of me, Elise and Candace, beautiful ladies. Both just had their first baby recently, and it's so fun to share that with them now, all parents. But as the only male, I think with such a love for church growing up and the Lord, this thing kind of developed, and I think parts of it amazing, parts of it maybe not the best, in that I became the hero child. Brittany and my wife, Danny's daughter, if you didn't catch that, often refer to ourselves as the hero children that came together. And it's beautiful and sometimes not very helpful. But the hero child, meaning I took on responsibilities that weren't mine. I think watching my dad's journey, he was trying to work it out, and he probably didn't have the example that he needed in some places that I was looking for. But I think the best language I have now, and feels like one of the biggest hammers I'm building that I want to use to help men moving forward, is just this passive thing, and really it's around the area of emotions and knowing how to connect. That just wasn't it wasn't front and center. It wasn't missing. It wasn't absent. It just wasn't front and center, and it wasn't as loud as it could have been. So it just creates this thing inside of me where there's this void that I was trying to fill that wasn't my responsibility to fill. And so it created some dynamics, even with my mom and probably even with my sisters at times. I've heard them describe how they viewed me as the hero child in that story that probably wasn't very positive from their perspective. So just all those dynamics that seem to show up. I think I had some things to undo. Because then you get married, and we got married very young at 18 and 19 years old. And I'm finding out there was a picture somewhere have to go find this if you're listening today, but this is a picture from, I think we were 18 and 19, maybe dating still.
Really?
I look like my
You look 9.
I would say, yeah, you don't look 18.
my 11-year-old son right now. And somehow Danny and Sherry said yes to that guy. But
Yeah. Can I marry your daughter? Goodness.
Yeah, just this. I think one of the things I do want to point out real quick, because it's such a big part of my story, is the relationship between a man and his mother is so vital and so important, and often one of the places that we have to actually undo belief systems and pain points to become whole and healthy. So I'm not trying to disconnect from my mother, but I am trying to disconnect from the belief systems that relationship has created, especially when there's a void in the home. So it's kind of a top layer. There could be some more questions.
By void, you're talking about mom and dad are disconnected.
Yeah,
and in that, only son who can do nothing wrong. When you were little, they put you in the bathtub and you walked on the water. Right?
Moonwalked.
You know? Yeah. I mean, that's going on, and pretty much you are a shining star.
Yeah.
For really what your mom's hoping to produce in her children and in her home.
Yeah.
And so your mom ends up having a relationship connection with her son, and you live up to the call.
Yeah.
And then you start feeling the pressure.
Yep.
You start feeling the pressure to keep her proud.
Yep. Yeah, and this starts to play out in every area of life. Like I often think about, I had a bunch of friends at church that we just did life together for years, and I began to see myself as a leader in some respects. Whether they saw it or not, I'm not sure, but that's how it felt for me. And because of that, and this lessons I was learning at home, this identity of I cannot fail, I have to be okay, and I can't mess this thing up. So this almost this false front that I put on, like I can't fail and I have to be okay. I can't have a problem. I can't have a need. Like that stuff started to grow inside of me and just became my normal, which I think is pretty common, but not very helpful.
And so your head is filled with the imagination of what a Christian man, Christian leader looks like. It's the perfect image of Jesus. And so you're going to be that guy.
Yep. My dream was to be a pastor since I can remember, which looks like that's the guy that's got it all together. He doesn't have any problems. Then I became a pastor at a young age and realized that's not true anymore.
I'm doing a bad job.
Dang it.
Because I'm still a person.
I'm still a human. Yeah.
Dang, how's this happening?
Exactly.
Yeah. So you grew up in that, and you carried that, and when you're 15, you come to the United States.
Yeah.
You somehow, out of all the places in the United States you could go, you end up in Weaverville.
Yep.
How in the world did that happen?
So I had a dream to go to America.
Yeah.
From a young age, and I'm
sure it wasn't Weaverville though.
No, it was probably LA because that's the movies.
Yeah.
But this thing I remember standing at my neighbor's fence in the backyard and do my best attempt at an American accent.
Who?
Just to pretend.
Whoa. Was it like from Alabama?
Of course. Yeah. Y'all and, if there's any Aussies out there, stay with me. But I think, just this dream to go to America. And my parents said this was 1999. My parents went in 97 and actually brought back a Danny Silk cassette tape of a sermon.
Wow.
So I met Danny long before I even knew what this was or where he was. But our only mutual friend, a long family friend, was Danny and Sherry Silk's youth pastors when they were the senior pastors in this little mountain town. Is it 3,000 people? 3,000?
3,500.
3,500 people. So little mountain town. So I landed in LA by myself. My parents said yes to me flying by myself because we're going to meet these mutual people, which, again, we have a 14-year-old right now, and Brittany and I are like,
no.
What's happening?
Yeah.
Why would you do that? But I mean, I think that the piece of me that I do take away from it is my parents' willingness to help me accomplish the thing that was in my heart. there was no agenda in America. And these people that I'm going to stay with are moving while I'm there. They're packing up the house. So it was the weirdest thing. So there's just the fingerprints of God all over it, that he was setting me up for something. So we get here, actually arrive on Brittany's birthday. And then Nicolette, the family friend, she says, hey, I have to go get something from Danny's house. She was your assistant at the time. She was very much setting us up. She's like, Danny has a daughter that's your age. She's 14. 3 days ago. She just turned 14. Which I'm like, I don't know. It's so funny that she did this, thinking that I'm going to start a relationship at 15 years old with a girl.
On another continent.
Yeah. But it worked.
Another hemisphere.
And so it was summertime. I was missing school for this trip, and we just started spending every day together. I'd walk from where I was staying down to your house, and we would spend all day just hanging out. And this little thing began to develop, and I extended my trip for an extra week, and I got to go to the first Jesus Culture Conference in Redding, California. And that was a moment as well for Brittany and I to experience together. Like we had this marking moment as teenagers that we both look back on and say, something shifted in our life, in our journey with God, and we got to do it together. Pretty special. So to fast forward through that story, I get home. I actually told her on the phone, to the surprise of everyone, I think I'm going to marry you one day. That was probably my maturity of, maybe I shouldn't say it out loud. But flying over there to America the first time, there was this thing inside of me, and I didn't understand it to be the Lord at the time, but I believe it was the Lord pointing out. I thought it was hormones. I think you're going to meet, the Lord didn't say I think, but he was saying, you're going to meet your wife in America. So I get home, and I told Brittany on the phone after that, I think you might be the one for me. So we probably talked about a year, and then life just happened, and we fell out of contact. And to move through that, and this is one of Danny's books, I think, this whole story. But Brittany ends up finding a different boy on a online chat because she's in turmoil. The Silks have just moved from their place in Weaverville to Redding, so she's trying to work this thing out. So she calls me as I'm considering coming back at now 17 years old. And she says, hey, I just want to let you know, I have a boyfriend now, and this is what's happening. So if you still want to come, you're welcome to, but don't be expecting romantic anything. Okay. And that, it was really hard to hear at first, but then something clicked inside of me. And it was, I actually was dating someone else not long before that I told her before this phone call, there's this girl in America that I think I want to marry. Which is a really bad thing to tell your girlfriend.
Yeah.
But back
you are a placeholder.
Back to immaturity.
Zero. You're a zero placeholder.
Thanks for your help. I got here now. You got me here. It's horrible.
And I am Jesus. Yeah.
Goodness. So she's married now with kids. She's okay.
Oh,
she's okay.
Goodness.
Wait, heartbroken.
Dumped by Jesus. Wow.
Oh boy. So I this thing happened inside of me where I was like, that's the girl that I want to marry. That's like, and I think there's this theme of, I've talked to a bunch of guys and they all keep saying, I think I knew before she did. I'm not sure if there's a theme there or there's something to think about there, but I did. I had this thing inside of me. So I thought, I'm going to take the biggest risk I've ever done before. I'm going to go to America with the intention of winning this girl's heart back. And it worked. It totally worked. She dumped the guy and chose me. And I moved to America a year later. I started school ministry. And during my second year of school ministry in 2003, October 18th, we got married.
And we described that whole thing as, and Ben rode in like a knight in shining armor and rescued the princess from the evil dragon.
Yep.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah. Such a privilege. And I think maybe key even for those listening, when I think about these stories, I'm like, I like that guy, that young man that just was willing to risk. And there's moments when I think about that and think, all right, where's the next opportunity for me to actually get in touch with that part of me? Because I think life gets busy, we get older, things slow down, and we miss the opportunity sometimes to put that on display. So that's just one of the thoughts I think about when I tell that story.
I've heard you mention it before, but merging into our family was a set of adjustments for you. And there was, kind of a key upfront adjustment that you made that I've heard you speak about, numerous times. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So the part of the story you didn't just hear me say is I moved here for this girl. I'm going through school of supernatural ministry in Reading, and we get to a point in our relationship where we're now considering maybe we should be done. This is getting hard. I'm exhausted. You're frustrated, and this is coming from the place of Brittany grew up in a house where Danny and Sherry figured out how to communicate needs, how to find needs.
We were working on it.
Sure.
Back then, we were still working on it.
Sure. Well, it sounded really good to me. You were way further than we were.
Okay.
And so this conversation of this is what I need, and the relational experience of sharing needs with each other and meeting needs and the nutrients that comes from that, all those things. So Brittany's saying, hey, this is what I need, and I don't know what this language is. And so I'm trying to figure out how to even meet her there, and it's not working. So she'll send me a different need. Try this one. That's not working either. So now I feel like I'm carrying all these things that I'm failing at. I'm not winning, and I'm just getting overwhelmed that I cannot make this woman happy. I'm losing at this relationship. And she's frustrated. She's overwhelmed with just the unmet expectations and needs, to the point that we were standing outside. It's probably 8:00 at night. It's dark in the Silk's front yard. And we had some conversation that sounds like we should go ask your parents' permission to break up, which I've never heard a teenage couple say that.
Nope.
No,
that's one for the record. But
So this is back to the Holy Spirit. I think he's helping us. So we walk in there and say, can you guys talk for a minute?
Can you help us break up?
Can you help us break up? Which, they were busy working or doing something, so they kind of focused their time in, and we all sit down and we start talking. When I say we, I mean Brittany's now telling her parents all the things I'm doing wrong and what I'm not doing great at. And somehow Danny cuts through that conversation and looks at me and says, Ben, what do you need? And just like that, the room was quiet. Everyone's staring at me.
Crickets.
I'm like, can we have a different question? Because I don't know what to do with this question. I have no idea what I need. And that's not what, actually, I don't have needs. I meet needs.
I'm Jesus.
I guess the theme today is
Ben's Jesus.
Ben's Jesus. Yeah, this thing right there. I'm great at meeting needs. I don't know how to have a need. I was never taught that. That was never an experience. So I've described this moment, and it's almost easy to brush over and move on. It feels like one of the most transformational moments of my life. Because learning how to have a need for me just began to change everything. It didn't change that moment. It's been a journey, and it still is. But it introduced a paradigm.
And this is probably one of the big gaps for your dad.
Yeah.
Like your dad probably never knew the answer to that question.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that changed how we did marriage. It changed, it then influenced how we did parenting. And then even my Dragon Slayer stuff at this point, with the men that I'm pulling in my life, these are conversations we have too. Is, what are you needing?
How did you get to a need? In that moment, you're deer in the headlights, don't have an answer. How did you end up figuring out how to connect with your own heart and reach inside and go, oh, this is what I need?
Well, it was pretty quiet for a while, and I just sat there staring. And I think Danny started asking questions. Is this what you need? Well, I never considered that. Actually, that would feel amazing if someone met that need. That one too. So all of a sudden, he's helping me because I think he understands people. He's probably understanding me more at that point. But he can see if this thing was meant in you, would that help? Which I think the key there, and was listening and thinking about this conversation, having someone that knows you would be helpful to maybe ask questions. But that's how it started for me. Is him going, would this help? I never thought of that.
Yeah. I just think there might be a lot of guys listening who have never even thought about needs that they have, or this is a new thought for them. So if you have someone that you trust and they can ask great questions, so Danny may be like, what are those questions that you would ask? And is it questions that a guy could even ask himself if he's driving around listening right now, to start asking these questions to help get to the heart of what he needs? Or does he need someone to draw it out of him? Like, how does that work?
There's just kind of a self-awareness that's super helpful. You can boil it down to like a disc profile. Do I need to feel respected? Do I need to feel free? Do I need to feel connected? Or do I need to feel secure? Like, one of those is a base for any personality design, and so I'm probably thinking, well, Ben, do you need to feel connected? Do you need to feel cared about? Do you need to feel like you can win with this girl? Do you feel like are you feeling disconnected because you cannot find the happy button? Do you need to feel respected by her? Do you need to? And he's probably shaking his head like, yeah.
Check,
I'm looking over at Brittany like, okay, you picking this? Are you taking notes anywhere? Because she's like, well, I don't know if what, that would require I have to adjust.
That would change the agreement.
Yeah. So it would be helpful if you just knew some basic things about people, but even more helpful is that you learn about yourself. And you grow in your self-awareness. Then you begin to realize that you are uniquely designed, and that's how much different you are from her. And as she's uniquely designed, and she's going to need a whole set of specifics that you don't need. But if you don't learn them and learn how to supply them, they'll go unmet, which will translate into her feeling hurt, her feeling scared or powerless, which we communicate that classically through anger and rage and punishment. So I'd much rather have you get to, I feel hurt, than rage, anger, and punishment. But that's unmet needs generally get cloaked in looking like scary, bulletproof power. And it's a lie. You're not any of those things. You're scared, hurt, or powerless.
It's good. It's true. It's huge. I think that's such a big piece for men to lean into and learn about themselves. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah. So you make some, successful adjustments, and you end up married, and you are doing a great job as a husband, as a father. I mean, you have perfect children who are absolutely beautiful.
They're his grandchildren. So
I was going to say, they fill that bathtub back up.
We put them on the water in the pool. They walk across the water. Little Jesus babies. Yep. Actually, you do have just wonderful kids. I live with those people, and I think, wow.
Yeah.
This is incredible. Yeah, you guys are great parents.
Hey, Dragon Slayers, you're going to want to pick up Danny Silk's new book, The Way of the Dragon Slayer, 7 Reasons Men Need Brothers. If you're listening to this podcast and you're going, man, I need some more of this in my life. I need to know what those 7 dragons are. I need to know how to slay them. And I need a template, a playbook to gather men around me, to get my own 12 so that I can experience what I'm hearing about on this podcast. Then you got to get the book. Here's another reason you need to get this book. Every single person who pre-orders the book right now is going to get an exclusive Zoom interview with Danny and John Eldridge. I mean, talk about a couple of mighty men of God. They're going to impart some wisdom on you and some practical advice that's going to change your life. Everyone who pre-orders the book gets that. But guess what? 250 people who pre-ordered the book are going to win exclusive Dragon Slayers merch. We're talking about single release merchandise. You're going to get a hat that will never reproduce again. You'll be one of the OG original gatherer, a legacy founder member of Dragon Slayers. And here's why you definitely want to pre-order the book. Only when you pre-order the book at dragonslayers.co, that's dragonslayers.co, one lucky person is going to win an epic trip with Danny and his group of Dragon Slayers. We're going to take you to Wyoming, and you're going to become truly alive in the presence of amazing men of God, and it's going to knock your socks off. All you need to do to get involved, to punch your ticket for all of that, is go to dragonslayers.co, that's dragonslayers.co, and pre-order Danny's new book, The Way of the Dragon Slayer, 7 Reasons Men Need Brothers. Do it now.
I think that our journey together has been full of all kinds of adventures, and as part of the Dragon Slayer lore, as we kind of talk about these different adventures that throughout this series, we're going to be exploring Alaska and how it's impacted us. There's one story in particular that lays out there as legendary, and it's you and Craig on your side of the ridge deer hunting, and you get charged by a grizzly. It's in the book. It's a scary tale. But it is the type of experience that reduces a man to the character that is in there.
Yeah.
So why don't you just talk a little bit about, what happened that day, and maybe just some takeaways about living through a charging grizzly.
Gosh. Wow. Yeah. So this is the Dragon Slayer lore, as Danny said. It's good to say it. I think the day before was my first day ever on a big game hunt. I'm with Craig. Danny paired me with the Alaska Bear Girls, as we call him. And I got my first deer. So I'm like, let's do that again. That was amazing. Just the experience, cording this thing up, skinning the whole deal.
You can barely see you. You can barely see you.
I'm in camo here. In this picture, I got the my first buck on my pack. It's full of meat, very heavy, but such an amazing experience. We get back to the boat we're all staying on, and everyone's celebrating. So now we're on day 2, and we have seen. I've maybe seen a bear in the wild once from a distance. By the time Craig and I get up to our post where we're kind of glossing this area on day 2, I've now seen, I think, 6 Kodiak bears. So I've quadrupled the amount of bears I've ever seen in my life.
At least.
And so it's just experience, and I'm just following Craig because Danny has said this is the man that knows what he's doing. So whatever Craig says, because I got a deer yesterday with you, so you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
I'm going to follow your lead, whatever you say. So there's this bear that's about 600 yards to our left. We're watching the whole time, but he never moved. But it's just one more bear that's on the field. We're watching these deer right in front of us that have kind of popped up. And then all of a sudden, this bear steps out. And this is a second bear on this big area where we're standing in, about 500 yards away. So 5 football fields away from us. We can barely see in our binoculars, but it's there. And Craig's the guy that sees everything everywhere. He's just that guy that can spot it in a moment. Like, who are you? You have this supernatural ability out there. So we're just kind of standing there, and after 10 minutes, Craig looks at me and says, "That bear has not stopped staring at us." Okay. Do we look nice? Like, is this normal?
Do we look nice?
What does that mean? And he's like, it's the bear's broadside, which means its body's facing away from us, but its head's turned down the mountain, looking at us, just staring. And now my guide, the man that I've put my life, trusted with my life, is now getting nervous. Like, oh, that's encouraging. So he starts yelling and screaming, waving his arms, "Hey bear, hey bear." Nothing. This bear's just standing there. Okay. And after about 15 minutes of just trying to deter and all this kind of stuff, nothing's changing. It's like the bear said, "Okay, that was cute. It's my turn." And this bear starts charging down the mountain through this thick brush. Now, I just want to set the stage for those listening. We kind of raced the story, and the bear is charging down the mountain. This Kodiak large bear is running faster than I thought was possible for a bear. You hear these stories, but I'm now watching this in real life. And it's running towards us, and Craig's just getting mad because he understands what this means. I have no idea what this means. I'm thinking, I guess I'm going to heaven today. I don't know what this means. What do we do? So it's charging down the mountain, and Craig starts letting off rounds with his rifle just to try and scare this thing, which does work sometimes. This one does not deter from its course. It almost runs into the deer as it's running by, and when it passes the deer, that's the moment We are the chosen few. It's coming for us. So it keeps running. Between the 500 yards and about 100 yards, Craig has let off 3 rounds, and this bear stands up at 100 yards and looks at us. So Craig has 1 more round in his gun, my guide, and it drops back down and charges again. Craig now lets off his last round, just trying to deter it still, and it's still not changing course. And so it gets to 20 yards away.
Which isn't very far away.
Which is way too close
for
to
something that can run 30 miles an hour.
Yeah.
20 yards is quick.
Running towards us.
Too close.
Yeah.
So now Craig's refilling his rifle, and he looks at me and he says, "Ben, if it charges again, shoot it." And at this point, my legs have been literally shaking.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, when I say that, I mean, I'm trying to stand still because it's shaking. But it's like the bottom half is full of fear, and the top half has now tuned into focus. Because I got my orders from Craig, and that experience that you hear people describe when they're in an accident, and all the senses focus in and become really quiet, and you just see what you need to see. That's what happened. So sure enough, this bear charges again, and I pulled the trigger, and it's like I can't prove that I saw the bullet, but it's like I did. It just everything slowed down that much, and I pulled the trigger. It hits this bear in the shoulder. She rears up and turns around, and when she did, Craig's now ready, pulls the trigger, shoots the bear the second time in the neck, and that was it. And drops this bear. And we'd heard a story the night before about Craig having a charging bear like this that took 11 rounds to put down.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all I can think about right now is 11 rounds. So this bear drops, and Craig looks at me, now just frustrated and mad, like, gosh, this is such a nuisance. I'm like, we're alive, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
And he says out loud, we should go check on that bear. And I think he heard my thoughts. I didn't say anything, because I'm going to, whatever you do, whatever you say, Craig, I'm following you. But my thoughts were, that's a stupid idea. Because I've seen that movie.
You should pump that thing a few more times with some lead before we go check him out.
So I think he heard my thoughts, could probably see my face, and we started charging down the mountain to get back to the boat. And it's had this moment where catching our breath, but that kind of experience changes you.
Mm-hmm. Craig said something to you at the end of that experience that or maybe he said it on the boat. I can't remember where that first was, but I remember hearing him say something that really kind of identified a character that he recognized in you. You remember what he said?
I think you're referring to, he said, I've been in situations like this with other men, and they didn't stay. They ran away. And he was pointing out the courage that he saw in me in that moment. Mm-hmm. And I think my response was, I trusted you, Greg.
Oh, I thought you were going to say my legs didn't work.
My legs.
I couldn't.
I tried. I was trying to run away. No, I trusted that man at that point.
Yeah.
Whatever you say.
Yeah. I remember you saying, I wasn't leaving you.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. That was, so this story goes down in, Dragon Slayer lore. We had Wes and Shane and you, and see Budgie was there.
Yeah.
But
that was it. That was 6.
That was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
3 Alaskans and 3 non-Alaskans.
Yeah. Yep. That was us. So lessons. What was your takeaway from that whole experience?
I think that one of the first things I think about is courage, and what is that? You phrase it this way, and I'll see if I get it right. So help me out if I don't. But you said something like courage happens on the other side of the line of what we do not control. So when we find ourselves on the side of the line of things we don't control, that's when we find out what kind of courage we have. Mm-hmm. Which a bear charging you,
not much control.
Yeah, no, pretty wild experience.
Definitely the other side.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think when I think about that experience and what happened there, and learning how to access courage, I start thinking about real life. So talking to my wife, having a hard conversation.
Whoa, back up. Talking to your wife. I mean, charging Grizzly, talking to your wife. Those are pretty close to the same section of that other side of the line, right?
Yeah, I mean, this is where a lot of us get stuck.
Yeah.
And we don't access the courage. I think challenging my kids to find what's inside of them in those hard moments. Confronting my own passivity, which is a big part of my story. I mean, there's just these moments where courage is required. But I often think about what happened with the bear. So my heart for men isn't, you have to go have this experience. Go find Craig, have Craig take you to Kodak Island, get on the mountain. No. I actually don't do that because it's wild, but it's not needed. It's just looking for the moments where courage is required, which I think is actually more common than we realize.
Mm-hmm.
And when I get there, how am I going to access it? And it's connected to the Holy Spirit too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I heard you say in there, you kind of have to, it doesn't have to be with Craig, but in that moment for you, you went to a place where you were out of control, where you were out of your depth, where you knew that you were on that side of the line of I don't control. Yeah. And also in partnership with the man who did own that place, has like, hey, I'm comfortable here, so I'm also going to submit to another man.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I'm going to submit my life here, literally here. I'm going to trust you with my life. So I'm going to go into that dangerous place. I'm going to go with the man, and he gets you through it, sees you through it, and then does one-ups it, and then takes it as a teaching moment or a moment to encourage you, to literally drop courage in you and help give you identity of who you are. And you bring that back to your family and say, I'm now more full of courage, and I'm going to display that in lots of different scenarios. I think there's just this really great thing that you do. I get to do life with you too. I get to see all the time where you go get something or you see something, and then there's a immediate and urgent desire of yours to go bring that to your family and share that strength. I think that's just really cool. But you had to go across that line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in the dinner table that night, we're sitting around, and it isn't long before all the prophetic words, about David, shepherd boy, kills the lion, kills the bear, coming after Goliath, that sort of thing. What did that do?
Man, that's what, I got a couple of words in my life that I hold really close all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of them.
Mm-hmm.
The bear actually hangs in a house, and every time I walk by it and I stroke it, just to remind myself of the memory.
Mm-hmm.
I think of that word.
Mm-hmm.
But it was Philip. He actually said, there it is. He said, I can't remember the exact words. It's the last part that really sticks with me. But he said something like, when David killed the lion, that was really where you're becoming a man. And then when he killed the bear, something changed inside of you, and it was you confronting your own insecurities and things. And then the Goliath, he said, there's a Goliath coming against the church, and this is practice for what God's called you to.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this whole word, and it was kind of like overwhelming in the best kind of way. Like, okay, I don't know what to do with that, except that I'm going to walk it out now and remember that God's going to use this seemingly insignificant, wild, crazy story, but insignificant thing to remind me of my destiny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eric just threw a picture of that bear up there, but there's another picture up there where Lincoln, your 9-year-old boy at the time, is laying on it. Yeah. And that's probably a little more gauge there. But
for context, it's 8 foot by 8 foot.
Yeah.
So it's not small.
It's a big bear.
Yeah. Tail to
Big
nose,
bear.
it's a little over 8 foot. And so him standing up on those legs there, he's 10 feet high.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of angry right there.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Well, for sure that was a defining moment, and And probably 2 hours after you told that story, you reel in a 45-pound halibut off the back of the boat. I'm like, hey, okay, this guy in 24 hours, he's just shot his first buck, killed a charging grizzly, and reeled in a 45-pound halibut.
Caught the biggest fish of my life.
Yeah, I don't know, but
he's on a heater.
This is welcome to Alaska.
Seriously,
the land of adventure.
Yeah,
for sure. So good.
Yeah.
A lot of what you do, Ben, is you care for people, you listen to people. We always refer to you as Pastor Ben. You're the guy that wants to sit with the whoever. You're the guy that wants to listen. You're the guy that is going to go the extra mile, stay late, have them over. It's and what do you think what do you think that is about you that helps you understand people well enough to be so effective with them?
I mean, the first thought I'm having as you ask that question is, I love hearing people's stories, and I love to get to be connected to their story just to help them progress. And one of the biggest keys, you said it twice already, just describing that question, but I think one of the biggest keys is listening. You're going to say that is someone the other day, they said something like, learning to listen really well is so important. But what often happens is if you just listen to someone and just give them the opportunity, they'll often find the solution themselves. So I wasn't even needed. I was just a person willing to listen long enough for you to go find the solution yourself. Which, they're like, thanks so much for helping me. That was amazing. I didn't do anything. I was just listening. I listened long enough for you to hear yourself talk and not give you a bunch of advice or try and convince you of something. And I think that lends itself to the idea that people do not want to feel controlled. And people don't want to feel like they have to be convinced of something. They want to actually find out that they have what it takes. And I actually have everything I need inside of me already, which is one of my core beliefs. I'm collecting ideas and different things, but I got the Holy Spirit right here. And he knows what I need. Before I was born, he put it in there. And so I'm just looking for the pieces of definition to put together so I can keep running hard after my call, the thing the Lord's put in my life to do on the earth while I'm here. So I think learning to teach people what love looks like as well, that's a huge motivator.
I mean, listening is usually something you have to teach people to do.
It's true.
This is what it looks like. This is what it sounds like. This is how it behaves. This is what you look like with your mouth shut.
Yeah.
And yet you seem to just take to it like duck to a water. Do you think it's a gift? Do you think it's a skill? Do you think it's where's this come from?
Yeah, I don't know that I have a full answer on that, to be honest, on where it comes from, but I do think there's certain people who are a little more bent in this direction. But it's definitely a skill. I think it's definitely a skill that we have to practice and be patient and not love the sound of our voice so much and be willing to wait, and something that Danny said for years is, if I'll listen first, it may actually change what I was going to say. My response might change if I'm willing to listen. If I don't listen, I'm going to say whatever I want to say, and it may not actually help the person in front of me. It has nothing to do with what they actually said. I just thought I was just assuming. So I know growing up, I was that guy in my friend group that just would listen and let them talk, let people kind of share their own stuff. And so somewhere in my early years, that was practiced and learned somehow from those relationships. But it just became, I think my gift mix, my passion for people, just all these things seem to fit together.
Mm-hmm. And you very naturally have just great respect for people, and so that gives you pause to interrupting their train of thought or, whatever, or even, projecting your own will on somebody else. You're like, I have a lot of respect for other people's character and autonomy. And so, I think it just works. It's just fun to watch so many people feel ministered to by you. And
that's great.
And, you have a whole host of folks that you've helped, and so it's super encouraging.
I had two quick things on just that strength that you carry. One is like a joke between you and I. Like, one of the things we do at Loving a Purpose is like some of it's like it is a gift and it's a strength and it's a strength and you've developed that. So it's like a superpower when I'm working in my when we say gift mix, the things I was gifted in, the mix of things I was gifted in that culminate to give me this almost seemingly superpower that makes me different than everyone around me. And once I've clarified that and I know that about me, I can even develop that further. And you're so strong in it, so much so that we always have a loving way of making fun of each other when we say weird things. And one of those I was like, I don't know if it was you or me, but it was like, everywhere we touch people, that's where you need to be. And then it was like, we both were like, we probably shouldn't say it like that. So now the joke is like, if we're touching people, like, is that where we, but the point is like, if we're interacting with people, because what we say is like,
someone's going to clip this one moment right here.
If we're interacting with people, the best person we could put in that position is Ben. He's going to be the best representation of everyone around us because this is like a duck to water. This is where he thrives. So much so, another example of that is how you and I, like one of the ways we and you met is like came to JC Sacramento as a church. You were the first person we met in the church. You were our host group leader and you were so kind and inviting. And then we got asked, to serve on a team with you, helping young marrieds. And we were meeting with you and I was excited. I was excited because I got to talk and we get to share these things and I'm passionate about families. And my wife, I love talking in front of people. My wife, it's like, I'd rather die.
Pulling teeth. Yeah.
But she gets up there and she's, crushing it. And afterwards I was so excited. And the thing she said to me made me a little bit jealous, which was, she goes, I know. She said, I love when Ben's there. I feel so safe around him presenting when Ben's there. I was like, what? I was in the room too. But
safe from what?
Yeah, exactly. And so I was like, oh, like what? And I knew what you meant is like Ben saw me. He was listening to me when I was talking. He was saying, yeah, that's good. That's a good word right there. She might not even have been a good word, but there's something like, I think I'm saying something that's good. But that thing of creating safety and connection because you're engaged and you have that value for people and you listen so well is such a strength. Yeah.
Awesome.
I'm glad you developed that, man. And you're still developing it. It's a beautiful thing about you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's good.
I watch you do a great job with my daughter, and I really appreciate that about you. And I'm asking all our guys, like, really, what would you say is the intentional or most valuable contribution that you are making to your wife?
Yeah. Such a great question to listen to other people answer. Because I'm considering deeply, but I think through the lessons I've learned, I'm married 20 years now, I think one of the biggest contributions for me is showing up. Me actually showing up with, to be honest, after the whole conversation we just had about listening, but with my opinions, with my needs, with my desires, to match her so it's two powerful people in the room. That actually creates a bunch of value and the experience we're both looking for and that she's needing from me. Because when I'm not showing up and I'm disengaged, it is a no fun experience. It's a miserable marriage.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, Christian said something earlier about his wife just loves the way that he still looks at her, and she jokes all the time about that. That hasn't gone away. I love this woman she caught my heart a long time ago, and it just has never changed.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for me, it's really that piece right there. It's me fully showing up with all the strength that I have, because that's why we got married.
Mm-hmm.
Is that all the benefit that I'm growing in, I'm learning, and I'm developing inside of me of who Ben Serpell is. You're the first person that should be experiencing all of that.
Mm-hmm. I think what that makes me think of is that, when a guy is kind and gentle and patient and caring and all that stuff, he also can be invisible and unavailable, in survival mode a lot, So I think when you force yourself to show up, force yourself to be seen, allow yourself to make a demand on the relationship, to not just be I'm just here to serve you and for nothing to ever come my way, but maybe some crumbs that blow off the table after you're done feeding your face on my service, like that is so much baloney. That is such a pile of crap that guys convince themselves, hiding the whole time. So when you say I show up, I'm present, I communicate my needs, really what you're doing is you're giving her some targets.
Absolutely.
And in giving your wife targets to hit, she now has something to respect about you. When you hide all those targets, she has nothing to respect. There's no respect required. Nothing required from me. I'll just throw all the demands on you, and you just respond and lay your life down like Jesus died for the church. And then we just wipe our feet on him, and then we walk over the top of him. Like, that is not what that says. No, it doesn't. And that isn't true at all. It's not even a little bit true. It's like,
it's true. Super
important that both people are putting up targets so that there's a mutual respect back and forth that, I want you to get your needs met in this relationship, and I want to meet your needs in this relationship. So I think that is a real key to having a healthy relational exchange, is that both people are willing to set up targets by being seen, and then going to work to meet the needs of each other.
Yeah, and it's a dance with fear, and really the dance to fear needs to turn into killing the fear and turning up the love. But that's what you're warning
dance
against.
With love.
Exactly. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
We
fear out of the party.
We just changed partners.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the conversation I have with men all the time. Based on my own experiences, I was so afraid. I was so afraid to get this wrong. I was so afraid to hurt her. I was so afraid to be hurt that I did disengage. I would stay in the shadows and call it godly and Jesus-like. But it was just me protecting myself.
Yeah.
And it's a conversation I'm having more and more with men. I heard someone recently say that passive men feels like one of the biggest, fast-growing illnesses in marriages today.
Yeah.
Is passivity.
Yeah. Emasculation, having your masculinity removed, which is, in essence, no courage.
Yeah.
Just, fear-based living. No courage. I'd just rather avoid, disappear, or hop up and down like I'm powerful and then disappear. Yeah.
Great question.
So good.
Beautiful.
I think
awesome.
I would say I think that's part of this conversation here too, because sometimes we've jokingly talked about with another friend of ours, like the not so good gospel, like this idea, like when you, like you said, I was doing this thing of being passive and woe is me, and I give up my life for you, and you convince yourself that that's truth or good, and when you're in that, you believe you're right, and it takes someone to tell you truth. So like, so if you're listening and this is kind of stirring something in you where it's maybe even offensive to some degree, like, well, I don't know if they're right, or like I don't. This is challenging. we are right. I'll let
You know, I'll give you an amen over here, brother.
It's in the Bible.
But this is the value of being around other men and being in healthy community. So I don't have to believe that untruth by myself, because maybe I even misunderstood someone telling me truth and I thought this was the right way to do it. One of the reasons we do Dragon Slayers is if someone's doing that thing, a brother comes along and says, hey, that thing you're doing that you think is righteous is wrong.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what we do. And so much that, when we get victory over something, this is something Sherry taught me. It was like, hey, when I had victory over that, but doesn't mean that that's not an option for me still.
Yeah.
Like that's still an option I can go pick up. Like, I'm more aware of it. I have better tools. I pick it up way less than I ever did before, but I could be back there, which is another helpful tool, because it's like, hey, in your band of brothers, hey, you're picking that thing up again. Remember we said we didn't do that, or we didn't like that. And you're like, oh, crap, you're right. That's right. We don't do that. Thanks for having my back on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah. Yeah, good stuff. I recently, I was in a conversation with a guy who, he built a huge business. He got really distracted in building that business, and he really loves his wife, is trying to do a good job, but she's kind of got lost in the pain of that experience of him being, if you will, with another lover, his business, and he has since adjusted, I'd say repented and come back. But now she's like, I'm just going to be grieving all those years, and I'm going to camp there. And he came and he's telling me this whole deal and da-da-da. And I said, she's resentful. She's bitter. Hold her to it and require repentance. Hold up a target. Say, you know what? Every time you bring up the past like that, I feel punished.
Yep.
And I need to feel forgiven and loved. And he's like, whoa, what? What? Her? I can't say that to her. I mean, I can't do that. I'm like, dude, do it, or just live in the hell that you're living in, man. Yeah. But you're going to have to come and tell the truth. And being a coward is a gift to no one.
Yeah.
It's a gift to no one. And I mean, in our conversation, he's like, okay, all right, I'll do it. I might be calling you back. I thought you will be, because this isn't going to go well. It's not going to go well. She's not going down on the first, on the first conversation, because she won't believe you. Yeah. She's had it this way for a very long time, and let her know, and so I love watching men be courageous to heal their marriage, be courageous to show up, be courageous to tell the truth in love, to lead their women out of deception, out of lies and wounds and all the stuff that is so easy to get caught up in.
Yeah. And these trips we go on and these adventures we have, and we've said this a few different ways, different times, but I've said so many times to men, like, I only want to do the trips that feeds back into my family. That when I come home, my wife can look at me and say, something's changed about you. Mm-hmm. I know, that's why I went. To bring something new back, and just a better version of me, so we keep improving and getting better. Mm-hmm. So I love the adventure. I love the stories. I love the men, and that's all front and center. And on the other side of it, there's this gift that I have really for myself as a man, and for my family as a father and husband. That's just so valuable.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about self-care.
Yeah,
that's what it looks like right there.
Mm-hmm.
Go do a good job on yourself, and come back a better version of yourself.
Yep.
And give it to your family.
Come on.
Awesome.
So good.
Thanks, Ben Serpell.
You're so welcome. Good to be here again.
Hanging out with you, man.
I know.
It's an honor to run with you.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Yep. You're the man.